Hi everyone. Apologies for the delayed starting the session. I'm glad that you were able to join us, and now that we've got the right links, we are going to move swiftly into the session. So this is an interactive session. So please feel free to put your cameras on and your mics on to ask any questions through the session. Feel free to ask any questions in the chat function if you like to, or ask them directly to Tali, who we have with us here today. We are going to move into the main portion of the session, just admitting a couple more people into the session, but this topic for this breakout session is looking at novel hybrid ingredients for plant-based meats, and it is a pleasure to have Tali Hustan here with us today. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong, Tali. She is the CEO.
You did very well.
Thank you, of Novopro, and I'm going to hand over swiftly to you. Thank you.
Great. So thank you very much for having me here. And it's a great pleasure to be here today with you. I'm going to share my screen and present you with the Novopro journey. So if you see that, please say good.
Good.
So at Novopro, we consider ourselves, we are the chickpea protein company, and we consider ourselves as the 3.0 generation of plant-based protein. And our vision is all about sustainability. We would like to enable the creation of tasty plant-based proteins and solutions, and to inspire basically by that healthier future generations worldwide. So we were founded as a food tech company back at 2015 by Dr. Asher Shmulevich, who aimed to promote health and wellness to his patients. He was a physician and also an engineer, and he wanted to develop a medicinal food, a preventive food based on an ancient legume known for humanity for more than 3,000 years, the chickpea. And we at Novopro, we follow his path, and we were the first company to launch commercially chickpea protein concentrate. It was back at 2018, and we gained by now strong industry traction, and were recognized by the European Commission with the seal of excellence to our sustainable technology. We have a proprietary green technology for the extraction of 70% chickpea protein and other chickpea derivatives. Recently, we were also awarded by the United Nations with the Best Small Business Award, as they chose 50 SMEs for the impact they make on the future of food. We intend to continuously explore the chickpea and to offer more robust product pipeline to the market. We have now almost 20 people in our team. We're growing every day. Someone new is joining us, and we're very happy for that. So we have a professional team of 20 multidisciplinary specialists coming from different areas: biotechnology, engineering, food technologies, and many more. We produce in North America, and we intend to grow our production line to Europe as well. And we raised so far $23 million in 2 different rounds. And as I said, sustainability is the foundation of Inovo. And we see that from farm till fork, meaning we source our chickpea prior to processing it in the factory. We source it from farmers that are nearby and grow the chickpea very locally to nearby to the facility. And our process, as I said, is a green one. We're not using any organic solvents, and we use less water and energy than similar other processes. We aim to get to zero waste, and we're working on that. We even decided to address 4 of the 17 United Nations sustainability goals and start monitoring them on a yearly basis, and to be able to go further and improve our performance in those parameters. So after the processing of the chickpea in our factory, we received the CPPRO 70, which is the product that we sell commercially. It's a fine whitish powder, soluble, very, very neutral in taste, and that has all the essential amino acid. And it's also a functional protein, and I will get to that shortly. And because of the unique properties of the CPPRO 70, it can enable other food formulators like CPG companies to create different kind of product than the one that exist today on the shelves. It allows them to create clean label products. So why CPPRO by Novopro? We believe that there are a lot of offering out there of plant-based protein, and therefore our products needs to bring a unique added value in various categories. We look at what you see here, we look at it as the 5 pillars: sustainability, functionality, nutrition, and clean label, and of course, taste. And in all those 5 pillars, we aim to add value. So I already went through the sustainability aspect, which is the most important one. But functionality is also a very important parameter to R&D managers. When they are formulating with our CPPRO 70, they want the formula, whether it's a yogurt or a cheese or an ice cream, they want it to be easy to incorporate. They want the formula to work fast, and they want a quick success. And not many plant-based protein allows that. And this is one unique quality of our CPPRO 70. It's highly soluble, it forms foam, it's a very strong emulsifier with a very strong water and oil binding. And it has a very good nutritional value due to the 70% concentration of the protein, but also it has high content of fibers and low content of carb, and it is also low in sodium. And I talked a little bit about the clean label. What is clean label and why companies would like to formulate with clean label applications? So we're talking about a protein which is not an allergen, unlike soy protein, for example. Chickpea is not listed as allergen. It's of course GMO free and is coming from a clean label process itself. So it allows the creation of formulas with very short list of ingredients. And the most important thing in food is the taste. So the taste of plant-based protein is a great challenge to the industry. And our chickpea protein has a very mild taste, and this becomes more and more important to the new consumers. So just to demonstrate what clean label might mean. So by adding only 2 to 3% of our chickpea, of our CPPRO to a formula, for example, to a mayonnaise or to a non-dairy dessert, or even to a vegan ice cream. By adding this small portion to the formula, you can take out unwanted ingredients like modified starches, like carrageenan, pectin, lecithin, guar gum, and other ingredients that sometimes the consumers wouldn't like to see on their packaging. And unlike other plant-based proteins, CPPRO 70 can be used in various categories, from ice cream to meat analog, from gluten-free bakery to non-dairy product. It always has some special attributes that can help to formulate in those categories a very interesting and tasty product without compromising on the taste and the appearance. And of course, you're here today because the plant-based protein market and the demand for sustainable product is skyrocketing, and the numbers are really going from millions to billions in terms of dollars, but also the growth in digits. It's a 2 digits growth. If we're taking, for example, the total plant-based dairy, for example, dairy market, the sales are growing in 27% in a year, or the total plant-based meat sales in the US have grown in 45% a year. So those numbers are really uncommon in the food business, when we were used to 1 or 3% a year. So this is really a growing phenomena and a growing market all over the world. And the consumers are becoming more and more picky. They wouldn't like their products to be GMO. They wouldn't like to see allergens in the list of ingredients. And most importantly, almost 60% of consumers say that they are growing their plant-based protein source every day from, and of course, they are reducing the dairy product and the meat product they are consuming. And this is what we call flexitarians or semi-vegetarians. And if I will focus on the new product that we just launched last week in supply side waste in Vegas, which is a TVP, we really studied the challenges of the meat analog industry. And while more and more consumers are looking to increase their plant-based meat intake, there are some challenges that the whole community of ingredients and food companies needs to address, mainly the taste and texture, because at least 1 out of 3 consumers are looking for better tasting in the area of meat alternatives. And if you're looking at the companies that are playing in this category, they are looking at the supply chain, and they face a supply chain that is very limited in sources, sometimes unreliable and unscalable, and they need to choose very carefully the companies they work with, the ingredients they work with, and they want to move fast. And this supply chain development is slowing them down. And of course, the nutritional side of the plant-based protein is something that every company as well as every consumer is concerned with. The allergen issue is something that consumers are really would like to go away from. Soy protein was the king for many years, and the pea protein, which is not an allergen, is becoming more and more of a mass production, but it's not enough for consumers. They also want the nutritional side to be very strong and very firm, and actually they want it all in one. So we introduced last week the Inovo ProTexturized chickpea protein. We believe that this product that you see on the left-hand side of the picture, this is how it looks like before making a burger or nuggets out of it. We believe it will enable the food manufacturers to develop better and more sustainable and healthier meat alternative products with better taste and better nutritional value. And when we're looking into what is the benefits of this new TVP solution that we're offering, so taste is of course important, but texture is also very important when you're eating meat alternative. People would like to feel the bite, and it's the bite of a meat, and it's very challenging with some TVPs to get to a similar bite experience as people remember from meat. The nutritional values are also sometimes hard to get when you're formulating a hybrid product, and the QA side and the regulation side is also an issue. Of course, high level of protein, at least 65%, is something that is appreciated. And as long as this TVP can work not only in burgers, but also in other meat analogs like chicken nuggets and more, the more the merrier. And we're talking also about safety. We developed a TVP that is non-allergen and non-GMO. And I think that if we were together today in a session face-to-face, I would probably give you something to taste, but you can only imagine. You can see the burgers that we took pictures in our lab. This is what we prepared in our lab, the burger on the left-hand side, and above that, the chicken nuggets. Each serving has 70 grams of protein, great source of amino acid, low in sodium, very similar to the original taste, firm and juicy, and non-allergen. So if I would summarize what we are hoping to happen next, we developed those basic recipes. Of course, each of the experts in the industry, like Impossible Foods and Beyond Meat and others, because in many countries now, we see a lot of emerging companies formulating with TVPs and creating great alternative to meat. So Novopro invites all of those meat analog companies worldwide to join the next generation of the texturized protein with the less is more motto. So we have less ingredients in the recipe. You can see that on the right-hand side. Usually in a burger, there are more than 23 or 24 ingredients. We can offer a burger with less ingredients, less calories, less sodium, less fat, and greater taste, better nutritional value, and better for you additives. And on behalf of the Novopro team, thank you very much for having me here today.
Great, thank you, Tali, for that great presentation and kind of setting the scene for discussion. You can see that a couple of you have got your cameras on, which is great, and I'd like to invite more of you to switch on your cameras because we are going to go into a little bit of a wider discussion, because I think, as you mentioned, the topic itself is a broad kind of topic, and we kind of can take this quite far. So as Tali kind of mentioned in her session, we are looking at the different kind of hybrid proteins and what that kind of means for the plant-based meats. I guess I'm inviting people to ask questions directly. Let's have a discussion. I can kick off with one quick question to Tali. I know Tali has some questions as well that she'd like to get your input and share her input around this topic. So I guess my first question is, going off the back of your presentation, how do you see chickpea protein kind of differentiating from other plant-based proteins?
Well, thank you for the question, Jade. I think that the world needs not only one protein. Let's start with that. And I think that it's good that there is a variety of protein and that there are emerging more and more plant-based protein. I think that the chickpea protein offering of Novopro is unique in let's say five aspects that are interesting, both R&D managers and consumers. It's the taste, the allergenicity, which is a non-allergen. I think also the nutritional value or even the digestibility side, because today when companies are launching new products to market, they have nutritionists that are looking into this side as well of digestibility and how this product work in our system, how does it affect our health. And I think that the chickpea as an ancient legume that considered by consumers even as superfood is ticking all the boxes in terms of very neutral taste, clean and sustainable technology, a product that is highly functional and helps R&D managers to formulate nicely and quickly with a good nutritional value.
Perfect. I can see a couple raised hands, which is good, and a question in the chat. So maybe if we go first to Jordan, if you'd like to unmute yourself and ask your question or comment.
Hi, hello everyone. It was interesting. I was just taking some notes, especially when Tali was speaking, and it seems like a recurrable theme is coming up where, you know, because this is such an emerging sector, there's kind of a limited sources of reliable, scalable products, or basically reliable, scalable supply chains, essentially, for the buyers of this, when I'm talking about in a B2B context. And then I keep hearing from the buyers, from the companies, the large corporates, like in anyone, they're just inundated with a number of startups and people that are contacting them, but they often have long lead time or long product development cycles. So I just pose a question to the group who are in the space every day: is how can we help shrink this gap, or create a more iterative approach to getting these alternatives into our existing supply chains, or to create new supply chains? I don't know if anyone has any thoughts, but
Actually, Jordan, it was one of my questions as well to the group, because as a startup, I really think that the topic that you raised is really core to our challenges. Meaning scaling up a business is all about supply chain, finding the right chickpeas, finding the right source, finding the right variety, having it in volumes that are big enough but not too big in order to adjust to demand, and then to implement a technology, which, you know, technologies, when they are new, there aren't many places where you can scale them up. Otherwise, right, there won't be new technologies, there will be old technologies. So the challenge for us in scaling us up was really huge. And I think that until a company has a capacity of a full facility, they're always in a stage of scaling up. And food companies that will insist on buying only ingredients that they know from only companies that they know will end up at the same, I think, place where they buy sometimes unhealthy ingredients and they formulate industrialized product and do not go out to choose or take risk, because it's about taking risk, involving a startup into your supply chain as a mature food company. And
right, Sorry to cut you off. No, and that was what I'm saying is, and I think that it seems like there's a gap that we have to fill around how does it have to be, how can it be not such a big decision for the big company? You know, because that's part of my concern. I mean, you know, and it takes you years and years in the lab to figure it out. Yeah, so anyways, it's very interesting to hear that.
Anna, if you want to go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to continue with the questions,
Mhm.
so to make it maybe less or more interactive. And greetings to everyone from the evening in Paris. I'm Anna, analyst at the Inovo Partners. And to Tali, thank you very much for the Novopro story, call it success story. Very interesting. And indeed, the plant-based sector in general is of huge interest, and therefore, although we kind of all are onboarded here that plant-based choices are nutritionally more positive sometimes than the animal-based food and the processed food. Still, there might be struggle from the consumer side, as the plant-based food might be the process and actually might have more processing stages during the production. So how do you maybe address this issue, and how do you educate the consumers of the benefits on your products? Or how do you, in general, how do you address this processing stage?
So I think, thank you very much for the question. This is something that really concerns us a lot. How do we make our process as, let's say, natural as possible and less industrialized as possible? And this is not such an easy task. I think that what happens throughout the Western world in particular is that people, and I'm taking those almost a year and a half or more of COVID outside of the equation for a minute and looking back a year and a half before that, people were more and more on the go, meaning they wanted healthy solution, but couldn't make their own meals 3 times a day. So this was I think the main growing demand for healthy and clean label industrialized product, meaning if a mother cannot prepare every day, 3 times a day, morning, lunch, and dinner, a very fresh meal to her kids, she wants to have an alternative that is as good, as nutritious, as healthy to give her family. And this is why the consumers rely on CPG companies that are preparing those products. Sometimes they are cooled products, sometimes they are in ambient product, but anyway, they rely on those products in order to make their life easier. But easier is not enough anymore. They want those products to be also healthier. And I think this is the change that is going to happen. More and more CPG companies will issue to the market. We know because there are some very interesting CPGs that we work with that are going to launch to the market those offering, meaning like if you ever visited Switzerland, maybe the Migros retailer already launched with Novopro protein yogurts that has very good nutritional value. They taste similar to a dairy yogurt, and they have very few ingredients in it versus, let's say, a yogurt that is made through soy protein, which needs a lot of masking agents and stabilizers and so on. So I think the future is about being on the move, being flexible. And of course, sometimes you do need to make a decent dinner, but when you're not, you need a proper and healthy and tasty offering to take on the go with you.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any other comments to add before? Shannon, I can see you've unmuted.
I had another question, but if anyone else has comments before that.
No, go ahead and then we'll. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Tally, thank you so much for presenting. I think this is just a fabulous idea, and I'm very bullish on your product, which makes me wonder, what are your biggest challenges in presenting to manufacturers? What kind of tough questions do you get, and how do you approach them?
We get a lot of tough questions, believe me. And I think that it depends on the stage of the startup. At the beginning, we had challenges with having all, let's say, back at 2018, when we just scaled up, we need to figure out the Q&A routine, meaning companies, big companies, for example, and I see here people from PepsiCo in the crowd, and those companies have a really strict procedure when entering or when even trialing with new ingredient. So we needed to be in the level to answer those questionnaires and to be able to hand those companies with all the necessary Q&A paperwork. And it took quite a while, but today I think we can be on board on any company Q&A questionnaire with our current regulation status. So this was a huge challenge. And you know, small kids, small problem. You know, when you grow up, you have other challenges like scaling up, for example, going from a boutique size facility to bigger lines needs CapEx investments. So raising money becomes a focus of the whole company, and then you're not focusing on other things. Well, I can talk about challenges of startups for, I think, hours, but I think that nowadays, post-COVID times, there is a huge challenge in recruiting people, because there is some kind of change at the ecosystem. Some people are reluctant from leaving jobs. Some people would like to be independent and not work for companies, but do things for their own. So this is something that COVID had changed in the markets, and we're looking for newcomers, new employees, and we welcome you to spread the news. Novopro is recruiting.
Great. Thanks, Tally. There we do have only a couple of minutes left. So we have a hard stop soon. We have 3 minutes left. I've seen, Nancy, you've come back on screen. So I don't know if you want to ask your question to kind of as to wrap up things quickly. That's right.
Well, I noticed I was interested in your list of, you know, your do's and don'ts, and having fewer ingredients is seen as good, is a good thing. And that seems to me like I don't understand the rationale for that. Is it simply that consumers are afraid to read a label? They don't like reading, or you know, because most recipes,
it's the other way around.
Most recipes have like 15 ingredients or 20 ingredients if you go to a cookbook or you go to a restaurant.
Well, I think it's the other way around. More and more people are now reading food labels. When I was a kid, people were relying on brands mainly. So if we were buying a food product from a good brand, let's say Nestle or Danone, we were happy. I don't remember my mother reading the ingredient list. And nowadays, more and more people, whether it's young people or anyone, like 1 out of 3 are now reading food labels. And yes, they don't like to see long lists. They like their products to be as close to nature as possible, and they like it to be healthy and tasty at the same time. without E numbers, without stabilizers, without additives, chemical additives that they do not recognize as food. So this is a consumer kind of a phenomena which we are all facing. And the food companies realize that this is where consumers are heading and that they need to change their approach in order to be there for the consumers.
But I think it's what is on the ingredient label, not just the number of things, right? If they're looking at things that have chemically sounding names, or you're forced to use some name that doesn't really describe what it is sometimes because of regulations, right? That's harder. But if it's, you know, rosemary and thyme and lemon,
absolutely,
you know, I don't think that that's the problem. You could have
not
15
at all
of those and people
we love rosemary and thyme.
Okay. Thank you all for those who are joining the session, listening in, and thanks to everyone that asked their questions and joined the discussion. It's good to have you all join us and have Tali kind of give the opening presentation and answer all your questions. I hope you enjoyed it. So we do have another technical insights session that we're happening in 15 minutes time, which is focusing on sugar reduction and how looking at new alternative fats. So see you all shortly soon, and thank you, Tali, and everyone for joining us again.
Thank you very much for being here. Bye-bye.
All right, bye.